Transformers Reactivate has been in development for over 7 years. Why? What went so wrong with Transformers Reactivate that it takes this long to create? The Transformers title began development in October of 2017. I get it, game development is hard, but without a release date or release window, the game might not even come out this year, and we may have to wait even longer, and the fans of the game are starting to get pretty impatient. In this video, me and other content creators will dive into the rich lore of the long-awaited Transformers game, take a look into the questions of why it's taken so long for this game to get into the fans' hands, what went wrong with the development of the game, and how it can survive in modern-day gaming markets. In order to tackle these questions, we need to go back to the very beginning. Certain Affinity. Now, I know there are a lot of people who think that, Certain Affinity did do a great job on the game when it was in their hands, but that was just simply not the case. Certain Affinity wasted precious time, resources, and mismanaged the whole thing. They missed 2 to 3 release deadlines, received extremely poor playtest reviews, wasted Hasbro and Tencent's money on creating skins rather than actually developing the game. Can you believe that this game was supposed to originally come out in 2020? That's right, that should immediately set off some red flags. That immediately tells me that Certain Affinity was the incorrect choice for this project. It was reported that Certain Affinity only had the New York zone done in half of Chicago. It took them almost 4 years to create 1.5 zones. Certain Affinity did not have any of the story done at all until Splash Damage came in as the original support studio. All of this was done in UE4, and this article even states that the game was very outdated. It was reported that Certain Affinity not only missed many deadlines for their beta and launch, but they kept on asking for more and more money. Certain Affinity have reinforced these reports of bad development as their Halo Battle Royale project was seemingly cancelled. This has proven to me that Certain Affinity had no idea how to handle a game of this caliber and the large scope of Transformers Reactivate, and that they were an awful pick to handle the Transformers IP. I love Certain Affinity, but I think Splash Damage was the much better choice. Under their leadership, Splash Damage has polished and improved the game drastically, as they have experience with games like Outcasters and Dirty Bomb. They have passion and talent for the franchise as well. This begs the question though, was it truly the right decision for the Transformers title to be completely handed off to Splash Damage in late 2020? I reached out to DpzLuna for an in-depth analysis on this question, and he has heavy inside knowledge on the Unreal Engine 5 version of the game, and can give us a proper answer to this question.
Do I think it was the right decision for Certain Affinity to hand off the game to Splash Damage? Well, short answer is yes, but there is a reason behind this. Certain Affinity we are thankful for the fact that they even took the game in the first place. Obviously, we wouldn't be where we were now if they did not originally start the project in development. While we all can have our opinions on whether or not there was development hell or mismanagement of the project or budgetary constraints, nobody can deny that we wouldn't be where we are today without Certain Affinity. So props where props is due. Plus, they did originally work and have consulting from Digital Extremes and work with Splash Damage. So it can't be understated the importance that they did have in the history and the development of this game. But I will go out there and say that I do think it was an actual good idea to hand it off to Splash Damage. I mean, I know most of you guys have yet to see the actual game in its updated newer state, but from what you guys have seen from the few new character models from the back of the toys to the announcement trailer of last year, things are starting to pick back up. And I know being told being patient isn't something you want to hear, but all I can say is it's going to be worth the wait. If you take the gameplay of Transformers War for Cybertron and you take the game mechanics of Warframe, you then have what is to be setting the stage for Transformers Reactivate, a game that's being developed with Transformers fans in mind by Transformers fans, and 40 years of a legacy that will soon to be unleashed. In my personal opinion, I think Splash Damage is well prepared for this game, and I think Hasbro knows it. They're just biding their time, waiting to release and drop this at the perfect time. And again, this isn't some just average Transformers game. This is no Transformers Earthspark. This is like a proper AAA game, from the graphics to the gameplay to the sustained live service, in which I know most people won't be happy to hear live service and battle pass, especially after what Suicide Squad came and dumpstered. But we're looking at a game that has been envisioned from the very start to be an ongoing content live rich game, in a universe that is far better fitting, and with a backdrop of Warframe, this is far better fitting in terms of gameplay. It's not a mismatch of Destiny, Genshin and Borderlands. Transformers Reactivate more or less takes mostly from Warframe and a slight bit of Division. In my opinion, I mean, what more needs to be said? Warframe but Transformers. It literally can't go wrong. Like Warframe, the Transformers IP has literal hundreds if not thousands of characters to choose from and implement over time. In its set in its own continuity with its own lore. The story could go anywhere and everywhere. Realistically, the only limitations on this game is Hasbro or the audience not participating in it. Because for the technical structure of the game being on Unreal, to the multi-platform support, and Hasbro granting a free license to the story, which the only other time they've ever done this was back when they were setting up the aligned continuity with the Transformers War for Cybertron game. It's not often we get these type of games with this allowed freedom from Hasbro, let alone something as big as Transformers Reactivate in scope. Remember, this is a 10-year plan with 10 years worth of content and character additions and locations. What do you think that means for planets, characters, stories? This isn't just a one-off movie or a set of trilogy movies like they're doing currently. This is a game. This is something that will be living and breathing, which we'll get to play every single day, have new content, new grinding, new challenges, new skins. At the end of the day, I'm thankful for what Certain Affinity did, but given the quote-unquote mismanagement it did experience, I'm honestly happy with where Splash Damage is right now managing the game. They've had a bunch of support from some of the world's best studios. They have some of the best talent on their team. Realistically, it's just going to come down to, yes, we've had lack of communication, but now with the community manager gone and a new one stepping in, I'm hoping this is the time for change where we really need it the most, right before the launch of the game. Because let's be real here, all it's going to take is a gameplay trailer and you're going to see every single person, all your streamers, favorite content creators covering this game. You have Destiny retiring itself a marathon in Bungie's eyes, Warframe has been on the decline for years, Borderlands series is nowhere to be found, Division 3, which I originally leaked, isn't going to be off for another couple of years. The only other game in the genre of looter shooters that's even coming close to coming out is The First Descendant. And while realistically speaking it is very similar because it takes the Warframe-like antidote in terms of gameplay, the problem is, see, they do have really good communication, which I love. The problem is it's being backed by Nexon. And for anyone who doesn't know, Nexon will just turn this game into pay to win and then inevitably shut off the servers like they've done with every other game they've touched. So while I love the studio and I love what they've done, I look at Transformers Reactivate, I look at Splash Damage, and I look at how much Hasbro has needed this and has been backing this, because let's be real, this project would have been canned years and years ago if Hasbro really didn't want it. With the amount of money they sank and the amount of development issues that this game has had, if they wanted to, they would have been justified in canning it. But they don't, because they want this. It's part of their new 2.0 vision, which they've been claiming for years. This is what they want. They are banking hard on this game doing well, because otherwise I can tell you for a fact the only Transformers game you're going to see if this one fails is coming through their Wizards of the Coast studio, and you're looking at least another 5 years. To wrap up my thoughts, I'm very thankful for what Certain Affinity did, and I'm thankful for the work and the base they created. But what Splash Damage has done is truly remarkable, and I can't wait for you guys to see it all. From the gameplay to the graphics, to the structural integrity of the engine and the mechanics behind it, it is truly insane, and I can't wait for you guys to experience it yourselves.
Now, Transformers Reactivate has had its fair share of time in development hell, as it has cycled through multiple publishers, with their original publishers Layu Technologies being bought out by Tencent. Then the project transferred over to Splash Damage and Hasbro. The game seems to have found its ground as of recent, being in the hands of Splash Damage and Hasbro permanently, but having this many hands on one project can lead to very bad things, because for all we know, Certain Affinity and Splash Damage could have had very differing views on the project, and could perhaps have different opinions. Maybe it's taken so long because Splash Damage did not like the direction Certain Affinity was taking the game, and they wanted to redo it all themselves. As we all know already, Certain Affinity spent most of their time making skins, New York and some of Chicago, that the whole story was practically created by Splash Damage themselves, as that's why they were hired in the first place as a support studio for the game back when Certain Affinity still was the main developers, as the publishers wanted the game to come out soon, but Certain Affinity was just so fucking slow that they had to hire a whole new studio to help them. But Splash Damage in the end completely took over, but this is not to say that development with Splash Damage has been smooth sailing either. Just like Certain Affinity, Splash Damage have indeed had some minor bumps in the road. It was rumored that Splash Damage themselves were in development hell for a small time, but it was for the most part debunked by DpzLuna. Splash Damage is constantly having to hire new staff, including brand new leads on the project sometimes, and even the transfer over to UE5, meaning they had to wait months for the porting from UE4 to UE5 to be completed. Splash Damage has fared much better than Certain Affinity did, but in the grand scheme of things, titles that use the looter shooter live service formula are just plain old hard to create. They are bound to have troubles with bugs, online connectivity, balancing issues, and sometimes poor leadership and or lack of direction. Almost every live service game has had one of these issues. Live service games are a very ambitious project to create and oftentimes take up to 5 to 10 years to fully create, and even then they can still crash and burn. So I'm bringing on a fellow Transformers Reactivate fan from our Discord to share his thoughts to get a fresh perspective on why Transformers Reactivate has been such a pain to develop in the last 7 years, and why they have not announced anything new as of recent.
It might just be, down to how ambitious it is, because Splash Damage are using it as the title of, this is going to be the Transformer game. And all I'm going to say is, we obviously know why Certain Affinity aren't working on it anymore, because, it was dev hell for them. But also, Splash Damage have created games that have, from what I've seen, has done well. I think the real reason why nothing's happened yet is because they don't know if it is actually ready to be shown off. Like, it could just be ready for like a closed beta or something like that, and we don't even know that's happened. But also, a year ago, they did announce that it was going to be upgraded to Unreal Engine 5, so they've probably just kept all of it under wraps because, how much stuff has been upgraded, and, they're just trying to get enough stuff done for the actual release of the game. And that kind of brings me on to my second point I was going to make. Hasbro have obviously got a plan. So far, we've had Transformers 1 announced fairly recently. Next month, so May, is apparently the month where Transformers Earthspark is going to be announced. So everyone predicting Summer Game Fest in June for Transformers Reactivate. There's a 50% chance it could happen, so you never know. But at the same time, obviously, there's still a chance it could either happen before or around it, so we'll just have to wait and see on that front. But in terms of the actual development itself, Splash Damage are probably, having their own issues behind the scenes, because they are still trying to build up their staff as they keep on, putting stuff on Twitter, which, credit to them, because obviously they're proud of announcing who they have. They don't announce everyone, but, it's still respectable either way, because Splash Damage clearly are wanted to work on this game and, make it really well done for fans to appreciate, because Splash Damage and Bulkhead are clearly like Transformers fans, given all the hints and, all the references in the trailer and the poster that we got. So it's only safe to assume that it's not entirely Splash Damage's fault that the game's not been said yet, and plus they've had to get a new community manager or something like that for the Transformers Reactivate official Twitter profile, and obviously that was found out fairly recently as well. They just need to rack up their numbers as well, just to ensure that the game is able to actually be released and actually be able to be worked on consistently for it to live up to a live service game. So they could just be, like I said, holding it back until it's actually ready, or they are ready but they're doing it in a rhythm with the rest of TF media that Hasbro wanted to announce at the moment. As I've just said, it could also just be basically Hasbro just holding it back and announcing it at a reasonable time, which, given Hasbro's marketing for some things over the past few months, have not been obviously the greatest. But so far, we've been proven wrong, I want to say. Especially recently with when Transformers 1 came out, because we didn't get anything until, obviously, the actual date when it was all just thrown out there for Transformers 1. So you never know, Hasbro could surprise us. And it's also the same with the toys. We got the 4 back in December, and there was a listing for Lifeline, which, truthfully, I still feel like it might just be a code name for another character. But, it could actually be the actual character. But if it is, she's been taken off the listing, and they're probably just waiting until the models in the game are actually usable. Because if they obviously show off and risk those characters getting leaked, then they've then got the problem of crap. They know who is going to happen, So they're probably just holding it back until the game's actually announced, so we get to see more into it.
Back to the current day, end of April 2024, Splash Damage has officially stated that we will be receiving further updates and developments this year regarding Transformers Reactivate. But is it too late for Transformers Reactivate? They began development at a time where the games as a service market was not oversaturated like it is today. Only choices gamers had back in the day was Destiny 1 and Warframe. But as time has gone on, 7 years later, Transformers Reactivate is still not complete, and nowadays the live service market has become so oversaturated that fans are starting to lose interest in these type of games altogether. Suicide Squad, Marvel's Avengers, Babylon's Fall, and many others, we are seeing the decline of live service markets right in front of us. Though it's not entirely impossible for your live service game to survive, with Baldur's Gate 3 blowing up and showing that it is actually possible for a games as a service title to live in the current modern day landscape of gaming. Baldur's Gate 3 was heavily praised for not including bad business practices, milking their players for money. They had no predatory item shop or marketplace and had a thrilling gaming experience with such a smooth launch. The Fallout TV show has also breathed in new life into Fallout 76, and people hated that game on launch, with the game reaching a new all-time player count after 6 years of being in the hands of players. So in my personal opinion, it may not be too late for Transformers Reactivate. It is rare, but games as a service can work in the current day market. Players are just sick of unfinished games, bugs, predatory markets, and microtransactions. Splash Damage needs to realize that they are releasing their game into a pool of players that are constantly having their trust betrayed by greedy developers. The most recent case of this is Suicide Squad. This goes to show that you can be one of the most world-renowned game developers, but launching a bad game, an unfinished game, will kill your trust with players. This is why it's important for Splash Damage to take their time, learn and take data from the modern gaming market, and make plans accordingly. To get a fresh outsider's perspective on how a live service game like Transformers Reactivate can survive nowadays, given the many failures and betrayals of trust from games like Suicide Squad, Babylon's Fall, and The Day Before, I asked my good friend and Dying Light 2 content creator JDoc the following question. With the resurgence and comebacks of games like Fallout 76, Cyberpunk, and even Dying Light 2, what does an upcoming live service looter shooter game such as Transformers Reactivate need to survive in the current gaming landscape? What are some steps to take for Splash Damage to ensure a successful future for their title?
What's up guys, this is JDoc. I'm here to give my 2 cents on how I think Transformers Reactivate can ensure a successful future. Given the releases of multiple failed live service titles like Suicide Squad, Anthem, Avengers, and with the current resurgence of games like Fallout 76, Cyberpunk, and even Dying Light 2, what does an upcoming live service looter game such as Transformers Reactivate need to survive in the current gaming landscape? Answering a question like this is actually really simple, coming from a creator from the Dying Light 2 community. I would say there are a few factors that went into the successes of all of the previously mentioned titles. But in the cases of Dying Light 2 and Cyberpunk, what it really took was transparency and real, genuine quality content coming from the developers. Obviously, Transformers Reactivate is its own title, so it's gonna have to make its own decisions when handling this process. But if anybody over at Splash Damage sees this, I think it's a great idea to utilize your content creator community members, because they are more than happy to work with you to make the game the best possible product it can be. At the end of the day, as a live service game, you're gonna have to pump out good quality content all the time. Just make sure to listen to your community, don't throw in cheesy microtransactions, and Transformers Reactivate will have a successful future. That's gonna do it for me guys, I'm handing it back over to Reaper.
Transformers Reactivate has had its fair share of trouble over the last 7 years, and the worst case scenario, it could be 8 years of development before we finally get our hands on it. Though I'm willing to give the developers some slack because Splash Damage and Hasbro have seemingly been a blessing in disguise, saving us from the evil Certain Affinity and Tencent. As for when Splash Damage may end their long development time, I'm a true believer in the game releasing this year. Being re-announced at Summer Games Fest or Gamescom at the latest is the smartest move. Splash Damage needs to make sure that they market the game properly, are not greedy, and have a full structured plan for the future of their game. In order to ensure the success, perhaps releasing the game in a finished state at the same time as Transformers 1 will be worth it due to brand relevancy. Who knows? Thank you to JDoc, DpzLuna, Durdrell for helping out with this video. Find their links in the description below. It's been TFReaper. I'll see y'all boys later.